Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
So I mean this with all due respect to the A&M basketball team, but I believe Saturday's win over Texas was an introduction of new players to a large portion of the fan base who watches basketball, but they're all invested in football until the end of football season and conference play begins. Because even I had now my daughter Isla watches every basketball game, but some of the other kids are like, Dad, who's the guy in the middle? Pharrell Payne? Oh, he's pretty good. Yeah, I've been watching all year. What about you guys? Dad, who's that guy who keeps driving to the basket? Zurich Phelps? He's really good, right, guys? He's been here all year long. Yeah. Who's that guy who shoots threes? CJ Wilcher? He's pretty good, guys. I think it was an introduction to many fans who love Aggie basketball that maybe haven't been as invested in the non-conference, and they knock on the door, here they are, they're going to be in it for the rest of it.
Well, yeah, I think so. When I came to work at the Eagle in 1993, it took me just a few months to realize that the biggest days of the year were Christmas and when they played Texas in anything. And even though the students are not back at school, I anticipated there would be a great crowd.
Yeah.
And of course, it was a full house at Reed, and it was beautiful. It just showed you what basketball can be here. And oh, by the way, the Aggies played as close to a perfect second half as they're going to ever play in blowing out the Longhorn.
So the first half, again, watching with people who don't watch basketball as much as we do, my kids were like, Dad, I thought you said A&M was better than Texas. Because for a little while, Texas was leading the first half. And I'm like, guys, this is called basketball. It's over the whole 40-minute game that things kind of iron out. And while you could look at that game and say, it was closer than a 20-point game, it was a 20-point game. It was a 20-point beatdown. A&M did what in the mixed martial arts world, or like a snake, it just took its time, found its position, and then choked the life out of Texas.
Choked the life, like a anaconda. We were talking about anacondas last week. It was like an anaconda, the way they just suffocated them.
They did, and it was. And Luke had some great stats afterwards. How A&M plays against teams that shoot the three ball well. All the teams that shoot the three ball well are well under their season average when they play Texas A&M.
Oh, Texas shot like less than 10% in the second half. I think they were 1 of 12 or 1 of 13 in the second half, and Texas has to be able to shoot the three, it looks like, to win. And they shoot a high percentage.
In transition. They're so good in transition.
But that's a team that's like 6th in the country in three-point percentage. And, gosh, that second half, A&M just took it away from them.
And I don't know if A&M in years past, now look, there were games where Wade wasn't on that Boots would carry them, right? Mm-hmm. And there were games that maybe it was Manny Obaseki towards the end of the season, right? So it's not always if Wade's off, this team would lose games. They would win games. But this particular version of this A&M basketball team, they can beat you in different ways. And what I mean by that is they can get offense from the paint because Pharrell Payne, not only is he good defensively, given the ball in the paint, he's gonna put it down.
Yeah, he should change his name and add a T to his last name and just be Pharrell Paint.
Paint.
Because he was getting it done in the paint. And actually, he can be shaky at the foul line. He started that way, but he ended up actually doing all right there too. So they talk about in games like this a complete team effort. It really was on the defensive end. The defense was extraordinary, again, especially in the second half. What I find impressive is, like you said, they didn't have to rely heavily on Wade, even though he was definitely a factor. I think he had 13 points. But the bench played really well. Hayden Hefner, who actually started, though, he had 9 big points.
And he had difference-making plays.
Absolutely. They're in the fourth quarter, in the second half. They won despite, I think they were 2 of 19 from three-point range.
Yeah.
And won by 20.
Think about that.
Yeah, think about that.
And look, what the heck do I know? I don't like that they shoot so many threes because they don't hit a lot of threes for the most part the last few years. But it's kind of part of their philosophy is like, let's just get as many opportunities at the rim as we can because we will out-muscle you, out-physical you, get those offensive rebounds to get more opportunities.
Hey, Hayden Hefner had more offensive rebounds than Anderson Garcia. How often does that happen, right?
That shouldn't happen, but it happened.
I think that, though, it used to be, Buzz would say, just put a shot up and let's see if we can get the offensive rebound. They expect to make them now, like they did against Purdue. But in that game, it just wasn't falling for them, and that happens sometimes. But the way they compensated everywhere else, like you said, Pharrell Payne playing so well, Zurich Phelps on the drive, and I don't know how many and ones they had an opportunity to get. Now, they didn't close them out, but there were so many and one opportunities. And then, again, you just cannot overstate how magnificent they were on the defensive end.
Yeah, they were phenomenal. And this team will play 90 feet. They'll go after every loose ball. And this is what, to me, what I like about college basketball, the way this A&M team is built. I like watching pretty basketball with the 5 stars. Don't get me wrong, right? But this is the kind of team that scares teams in the tournament.
I think A&M's a little unorthodox. Buzz Williams will admit that. They do things a little bit differently. And so, first of all, when you play them, you got to get an idea how they're gonna play you.
Right.
And then it's just this mentality that this team seems to have. They're just, I hate to use, the whole blue collar thing is always overblown now.
Right.
But, maybe they're a no collar team. They're the guy that goes to work and working so hard he has to take his shirt off because he's sweating so much.
One guy that I want to give some props to, is Manny Obaski in that game, because when Wade went out, it felt for a moment, the first time Wade went out, right? It felt like, here we go. We're going to see what's going to happen here. And it was a little bit of a dry stretch entering the half, but there was like a 3-minute stretch where Manny kind of took over running the point, and A&M found their rhythm because they were trailing for such a long time. Then Texas made a little bit of run at the end, and then we tied it up at 37 at the half. But I thought Manny at the point, when he plays controlled, and you want him to play a little bit loose as well, right? Because he's so athletic and so gifted. But at the point, he was solid.
Yeah. And they seem to be pretty versatile, maybe more than they've ever been because of Zurich Phelps. And, we saw Manny do that a lot last year.
Yeah.
So we know that in a pinch that he can come in and handle that role. And you still have Wade. And so now I guess you got 3 guys that you can look for in that role when you have to. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more of Zurich Phelps in that role.
Yep.
And because, I think Wade does really, Wade's a great player no matter where you're going to put him, and I'm not going to say that they're going to move him out of that point guard role, but when you had him as the 2 guard sometimes, he's really, he's really effective in that role as well.
How about that heat check 3 he took? He took a couple that I was like, don't do that.
Oh, that was way out there.
Like, what are you doing?
How far was that? I'm sure it
Afghanistan.
wasn't 30 feet, but it sure seemed like it was.
It sure felt like 30 feet. And this is, again, going back to the comment earlier about, they don't win this game like this typically. Who are the headliners of this game? Because it's not the traditional people you would think about this core group of A&M. You think about Henry Coleman. You think about Wade Taylor. You think about Anderson Garcia. Like, these are some of the names you think about. Who am I missing? Am I missing anybody? These are the names you typically think of your core group. This game was a team effort with some names that are new to the outsiders, or the casuals, I should say. I don't mean that disrespectfully.
Yeah, I think Zurich Phelps and Pharrell Payne, for sure. And again, I talked about Hayden Hefner And he quote only scored 9 points.
They were big.
But the 7 in the second half were so huge when Texas pulled, A&M got a lead, but then Texas pulled within 5, and then Hayden gets a basket, a offensive rebound, and a putback, and then he assists on a basket to Pharrell Payne, and then he hits a 3.
Yep.
I mean, so when the points came, they were at such a crucial time.
Hey, Happy New Year, buddy.
Well, Happy New Year to you. And happy birthday to my son, Quinn, who turned 21 today.
It's party time. Tonight, keg stands.
We're going to partay.
All around town.
It'll probably be after, the partay will probably be after I go to bed. Who wants to party with their dad, you know? But we're gonna celebrate it.
Well, Happy New Year. Happy birthday
buy him
to Quinn.
his first legal drink. Not his first drink, unfortunately, but definitely first legal drink.
We are TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. So we've only done one show together since
in a year.
Vegas. Well, in this year, this is the first show, yeah. But since Vegas, only one show. Yeah. Some things have happened in football. We'll talk about that throughout the hour.
Let's do.
College football playoffs we can get into. A&M transfer portal information we can get into. We're going to celebrate the great career of R.C. Slocum. He's going to join us at 8:35.
As fine a man as I've ever known.
Yeah.
And
just doesn't matter when I reach out to him. Always responds. Always has time. Always is as classy as ever. Like he's what you want. He's the kind of coach you want to play for, no matter what stage of your life.
Well, you can see, in social media, how many of his former players respond to everything about him and express their love for him and just have a great relationship with him. I've told you about the story the first time I met him. Was at Kane Hall. Yeah. It was my first time with the Eagle, and Alan Cannon introduced me. He said hi, and he walked. He's a busy man. Yeah. And he walked toward the door, and then he kind of walked about 7 or 8 steps and stopped.
And he came
caught
back.
himself, came back, and says, "So where are you from?" And something that little. He's like, "Look, I got something on my mind. I got to go to work," and then he caught himself like, wait a minute, I just met somebody new. Let me come back.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of guy R.C. Slow. Never lied. Sometimes you'd have to ask him the question. And, sometimes I got on his bad side. I rankled him a few times. But, he never held anything against you. He was always professional. Again, as fine a man. We're not, I don't go over his house for dinner.
Right.
But as friendly an acquaintance as you can have between reporter and coach as I've ever had.
He's amazing. What'd you do during the break? Watch football?
Yeah, watched a lot of football, watched some basketball. Didn't have a big break. But, yeah, football and basketball.
Okay.
It's what I do.
That's what you do. I have a buddy, Randy Zahn, who's got some land. We went fishing, hanging out for New Year's Eve. It was a great time.
And then I saw you shooting.
And then I went with Kevin and Nate Ricketts to their ranch in Bryan, and I was shooting an AR-10. Dude, I am just an outdoors
You're out there hunting. Now you're just shooting.
I'm fishing.
And now you're fishing.
And I'm jiu-jitsuing. Shout out to Brazos Valley MMA. I'm doing it all. I'm Mr. Outdoors.
I'm waiting for you to, take on a bear and or something. And who needs a gun? I'll just jiu-jitsu you.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll work out very well, but I'm into the idea.
I'm going to start calling you Grizzly.
Grizzly?
You need to grow a long beard. Grizzly Nuño.
Yeah, I had that beard not that long ago. Remember, like a month ago, I grew it.
No, I'm talking about a long beard.
Oh, like a Harden?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember the old show Grizzly Adams.
No, that was in the 50s.
Yeah, really wasn't. But, Grizzly, the life and times of Grizzly Nuño.
Grizzly Nuño.
Out there.
That's Nick. I go to the meetings.
Man living on the land.
I do.
You should just sell your house.
Landman.
You should just sell your house and go, build a cabin with your own hands.
Yeah, I could do that, but I think I'm going to keep the house right now during this 29-degree weather that we have outside. All right, let's do this. We're in the Holistic Planning Cool Zone.
Cool Zone.
Did you and Brody talk about the Holistic Planning Cool Zone?
Not over here.
Okay, you did it from over there.
But now we're actually back in the actual Cool Zone.
Where they do investment?
Taxes, that's coming up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Estate planning.
Yeah, and you can also?
With these investments, you can invest in pro sports.
Investinprosports.com is the website. If you want to be part of the conversation, you can do it by calling us up at 979. Why did I say 9 like that? Did you hear that? I was like, 979 693.
So much for Grizzly Nuño.
1150. Hello there. Right now, let's go behind the glass and say hi. Oh, by the way, if you call us, that'll be on the Boss Firearms hotline. Let's talk to Nick Savage behind the glass, who's dressed like Rocky Balboa in Rocky IV when he went to Russia to go train.
I would have preferred like John Dutton or something like that, but yeah, I'll take it, I guess.
No, you're more like Jamie Dutton.
Oh, well, rip.
Oh,
Anyways,
man.
I actually didn't watch the rest of the show. I'm sorry. You can't just take a break like that and make all the changes that they did. I'm not going to watch it. Sorry.
Okay. It was not the ending that I wanted.
Yeah, I figured. That's why.
Yeah. But, it very rarely. What show has ended well that everyone's like, okay, they did that right?
MASH.
Yeah, I didn't watch that. Okay. Breaking Bad, did that end right? Do you think, do we appreciate that one?
Yeah.
The Sopranos?
Sopranos?
No, it was a horrible ending.
Really?
Maybe
Seinfeld?
the worst ending in the Sopranos may be the worst ending in the history of TV, and Seinfeld might be second.
Real? Seinfeld, I did not like the way it ended, but it kind of fit what they do. Sopranos, at the time, I didn't like it with history. I think it was all right. Okay. Anything else? What was another? Game of Thrones, nobody liked the way that one ended.
Everybody died.
That's what happens. Yeah. We all die eventually.
Yeah.
Nick, anything to add to the conversation?
Big win for Aggie basketball. Obviously, great way to start off the SEC slate. I feel like they weathered basketball has its ups and downs, and A&M weathered it, I think, better than they have all season long. Just from y'all might disagree with that, but they weathered the ups and downs a little bit better than they have all season long, and I think that's why that led to such a big win for them. So, it's SEC is going to be a grind, but that's a great way to start.
Yeah, if there's any weather, it was a storm. The way they took them by storm in the second half. I don't know that. What Texas get within 5, and that was as close as they could get, and then A&M just blasted them.
By the way, I feel. Tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. And I'm not on social media the way I used to, right? Because people bug me. But I feel like Aggies weren't gloating as much as I remember the other fan base gloating in the other sport. Like I feel like it was. Am I wrong here? Was it a little, or was there a lot of gloating going on? Callie, do you know?
I didn't see any, but I also.
I'm sure there was a little. Bit.
Yeah.
I just think that.
One was to go to the SEC championship game, so I get that.
And I just think football, for better, unfortunately, it's this way. I think it's still.
It holds a lot of weight.
It pulls more weight than basketball.
Yeah. By the way, Callie Gardner's at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Hello, Callie.
Hello. I'm sure everyone is super surprised to see me back over here.
You've only worked 98 days.
They were referring to him as Jamie Dutton and John Dutton, and and maybe Billy tries to look like Casey Dutton. Do you feel like you have any Beth Dutton tendencies?
I actually didn't watch Yellowstone, but maybe my mom could answer that. Okay. I don't know. I don't watch.
I don't think of you as Beth.
Callie's mom, if she has any. If you're listening or watching, if she has any Beth Dutton tendencies, please let us know.
What are her tendencies?
She's a tough lady.
Oh,
yeah.
She talks like a sailor. Oh.
She's tough. She's smart.
She's smart, brilliant. Also, sometimes gets herself into some situations.
Can be emotional, but
yeah, you're smart. You got that going for you.
I know a lot of women like her.
Yeah,
like that character.
I know a lot of men that like that character.
They like for different reasons.
That's fair.
Callie, continue from here, please.
Yeah, we've got some basketball news on both sides of the ball. The Aggies had their 8th straight win on Saturday in their 80-60 victory over the Longhorns. They are now 12-2 overall and 1-0 in the SEC, and the Longhorns fell to 11-3 and are 0-1 in the SEC. Speaking of Zurich Phelps, he had a really outstanding day. He had 18 points. 15 of those came in the second half. He was 5 for 7 from the field and 5 for 5 at the free throw line in the second, along with 5 rebounds to help the Aggies outscore the Longhorns 43-23 in the second half. And the Lady Aggie basketball team had a really big victory yesterday.
What a game, huh? What a comeback.
Yeah, huge game. They had a 20-point fourth. What's up?
Weren't they down 12 in the fourth quarter?
They had a 20-6 fourth quarter. That they won 60-58. They were once down 16, and that was the largest margin erased in A&M victory since coming back from down 17 against DePaul in the NCAA tournament. And they also snapped a 19-game losing streak against ranked teams. So that was a much-needed victory for Joni Taylor and company.
Outstanding.
My buddy Zach was watching the game. He was texting me during how disappointed he was. in the first quarter and how things were going. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, what a fourth. It was fantastic. So congratulations to Joni Taylor and the women's
Also, my
basketball
mom
team.
says definitely not. I think
Okay.
she's referencing, Beth Dutton.
I didn't say I don't know you well enough to know.
Oh, yeah, no.
I think I know you well enough. I think I've kind of figured. Now you have to watch the show.
See, I figure she's probably a tougher.
I feel like I've tried
ornery.
to get into Yellowstone, but I'm
not-
a Desperate Housewives
You're
girl.
not owner.
That's still on?
No, I just watch it.
On repeat?
Yeah.
I never saw that show. Not even once.
Wisteria
Oh, but
Lane?
you would Wisteria Lane, you would love it.
Would I?
No, there's no chance you would love it.
I probably won't watch it. I
No.
just never.
Did you ever watch Melrose Place?
No, never.
90210?
Never.
It's kind of like that.
You didn't watch 90210?
No, and Billy, I know about the show.
Mm-hmm.
I never watched it. Billy calls me 90210 Olin
yeah.
because I typically wear a black T-shirt.
Oh, well, you might like it. You should try it.
I
Brandon
probably
Walsh
won't.
Buchanan.
I probably won't.
All right, we'll hit a break here. We're going to come back. What do we have on the show? Can we talk Mike Evans on the other side?
Heck yeah.
Can we? And then we're going to talk R.C. Slocum?
Heck yeah.
And we got to talk some transfers? We didn't talk about
heck
Jordan
yeah.
Shaw, right?
Oh, man, that's exciting.
We got a lot to do over the next hour here on the Go Hour. Right now, though, let's talk Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs. Get $50 once you play in $5 lineups. So if Mike Evans was one of the guys you picked, OB, would you have gone more than or less than?
Well, depending on what it was. I probably, like if they would have said whatever it would take for him to extend his streak of 1,000-yard seasons to 11, I probably would have taken more than.
Yep.
So because Mike just has a way of reaching that 1,000-yard
He does. 11 straight years, is that right?
Is it 11 straight? Yeah, I think so.
So Ty and Jerry Rice. Here's the cool thing about that.
He'll go for 12 next year.
We're all invested in Mike Evans doing it because we're Aggies. Imagine also playing Prize Picks while he was doing it. Now that would have been fun.
Yeah, that would have been because not only would you have seen an Aggie who's been a great Aggie
get a bonus,
get a $3 million bonus, but yeah, you would have felt like you shared in it to some degree.
2 to 6 player stat projections, you'll win more than or less than. It is PrizePicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs and have a good old time watching and playing the game.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
We're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. He's OB. I'm David Nuño. Today is Monday, January 6, 2025, buddy.
January 6th, big day for me.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Big J6 guy?
Like I said, it's my son's birthday.
Yeah,
Gosh, I can remember getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, living in Austin, scared to death for the whole time, especially as it started getting closer, that she would go into labor and I'd get stuck in a traffic jam and all, because you know how bad traffic is trying to get to the hospital. And then there'd be Olin Buchanan on I-35 in a snarl having to deliver the baby.
You know what I think is awesome about celebrating your son's birthday? You know what you were doing on this day 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. Yeah, you know exactly where you were.
Well, I know it's not just me. It's everybody that can hear. It's you. It's everybody that's a dad.
It's the best.
Understands what I'm talking about. It's amazing. And it's the best thing that's ever. So it's the best 21 years of my life.
I'm going to tell you, and you and I are, part of the reason we're such good friends is because we have the same, like being a dad to me is the greatest gift that God ever gave me. Isla's birthday's coming up this week. And that's why we moved here to College Station, is to be able, not to celebrate just birthdays, just to be a part of our kids' lives. So congratulations to Quinn. Hey, let's talk Mike Evans for a moment. We have some of the video from just like when we talk about the greatest Aggies ever at the professional level. I mean, this guy, if he's not 1A, he's 1B, right? Like he's 1A, 1B, 1C. He is there.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the discussion, right? I mean, there's some great
ones.
There's one in the Hall of Fame, Yale Larry. There's guys that should be like Richmond Webb and Lester Hayes. And then you talked about so many linemen, Jacob Green, that should be
at 100%.
But you know, Mike Evans, what he's done in his career. Think about this: 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Okay, ties Jerry Rice, and everybody. I think most people will agree Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver ever. Mm-hmm. But think about who was throwing the football to Jerry Rice.
He had Joe Montana, Steve Young for most of his career.
Two Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Now think about who's thrown the ball to Mike Evans his whole career. You know? So, I mean, he did have Tom Brady for a couple of years.
Yeah, two seasons of Tom Brady.
But, yeah, it's just not the same. So,
and Baker seems to have a good rapport with him.
Yeah, he does, but Baker's never going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Right. He had Jameis for a little bit when Jameis wasn't that good.
So, Jameis at his best was probably Joe Montana at his worst. Okay, that's being exaggerated, but he's he's not like that. So, I just it's remarkable. I always liked Mike here because you could see the amazing ability that he had, and so many guys are content to just get by on their natural gifts. And Mike Evans worked hard at his. He didn't want to be good. He wanted to be great. So he worked hard at it all the time. And gosh, I always thought, what if in this fantasy world, if Johnny Manziel and Mike Evans had stayed for 4 years?
Oh my goodness!
It would be remembered as the most, iconic college passing combo ever. I think you go down to, Terry Beasley and Pat Sullivan at Auburn, and it was Jim Seymour and I think Joe Theismann was it at Notre Dame. But anyway, or maybe it's Hanratty, but maybe the greatest passing combination if they'd been together more.
By the way, I do want to say this about Jerry Rice. I just saw this come across. So Jerry Rice had 10,000 yards away from Steve Young and Joe Montana, which is amazing to me, right?
That is amazing.
And it says some of the quarterbacks that he played for, Elvis Grbac, Jeff Garcia, who had a nice NFL career.
Jeff Kemp. Kind of like Garcia is kind of like Baker.
Yeah, exactly. Good call there. Steve Bono, remember Steve Bono?
Yeah, Steve Bono. Yeah.
Mike Murkowski, Matt Cavanaugh, some of the quarterbacks that he played with.
Yeah, but I wonder how many. And he got 10,000 yards with those guys?
This must be a typo, but
yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not buying that.
But he played 9 games with Grbac, 6 with Jeff. Yeah, he's not gonna have 10,000 yards. Steve Bono 6, Matt Murkowski, Matt Cavanaugh. But I guess he for 97% of his career, he played with one of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah.
Is Steve Young in the top 10 quarterbacks? Top 15?
He's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer, yeah.
But Mike, he deserves it. He's a good guy. He's a tough guy. You know one thing, as great as Mike Evans is as a receiver, when I think of Mike Evans as a receiver, the first image that comes to my mind is him just destroying Terrence Newman on a block.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so Mike Evans, and then the other time is when he blindsided that guy with the Saints. After a play, the guy I can't remember the guy's name, the DB, and I think he was messing with one of the teammates, and Mike comes
yeah.
Because he's just a tough as nails guy.
Yeah. Hey, we should do this.
He should be a middle linebacker, but he's a wide receiver.
He could hoop too, by the way. Let's not forget that.
Mike Evans could do whatever he wanted.
I think, look, if in a perfect world, we set this up. We invite R.C. Slocum and Mike Evans to eat lunch. That's what I think we should do. And
but if you do that, you got to, you can't go to just any place. You got to go someplace spectacular.
You want to go somewhere spectacular.
Befitting the spectacular.
Of legends, right?
Yes.
A place where you don't have to be a legend to go, but you want to bring a legend.
But you want to have a legendary lunch or a legendary dinner. I would go get some legendary barbecue. Where could I get that legendary barbecue?
There's 4 numbers you need to think about.
What
177
1775.
1775.
Legendary barbecue. The pork ribs, legendary. The brisket,
legendary.
That sausage,
legendary.
And you know what's really legendary?
Queso mac and cheese.
Queso mac and cheese.
Legendary.
Legendary.
It is 1775. 979-492-6241. Open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m. 1775. TXBBQ.com. Let's celebrate a legendary career, shall we, Obi?
Yeah, let's do.
It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. We are joined by R.C. Slocum. Coach Slocum, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well this morning.
Well, let's go ahead, Obi.
No, I'm just, hey, Coach, before we get started, I'm be speaking on my behalf and every sports writer that's ever dealt with you, just thanking you for all the years that you were just easy to work with. You weren't always forthcoming because you made us work for some information, but you never lied, and you were always professional with us, and we always appreciated it.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. I would hope that at the end of a career, people would be able to say that.
RC, what was it about Texas A&M for you that, like, while other coaches are aligned with a program, they sometimes venture out, and you, for the most part, 53 years at A&M.
You know, when I was a young coach, I looked around and there was I knew guys that just bounced everywhere. But I looked at guys like Vince Dooley and both Sim Beckler and Frank Brawls and Darryl Rawl, and all those people could have gone other places. And they found a place that they fit, and they stayed there. You know, and most of them had been I was at high school, I was at Kansas State before, but I got to A&M. I liked it here. I'd grown up in Texas. One of my dear friends, the first college campus that I was ever on was Texas A&M. I had an Aggie in my hometown named Homer Stark, who was my high school. Stark High School was named after his father. And he took a liking to me. I knew him, first met him through his kids that went to school with me, and I was from the opposite side of town from where they lived. But he saw something in me and said, Slocum, my boy, I got to take you up to Aggieland and go. So we went to Bonfire, went to the game, and that kind of started my, real affinity for A&M, and so I watched them, and then I went off coaching and never dreamed that I would someday be here, much less be the head coach. And I kind of tracked Emory down when he was coming here. Actually, before he came here, I sent him a letter, and I was at Kansas State, and I told him I'd grown up in Texas. My high school coach, a guy named Ted Jeffries, was in the Texas High School Coaches Hall of Fame. And so I told him all the good stuff that I could think of, and I never heard back from him. And he was busy. They were, he was at Texas, and they were getting ready for the Cotton Bowl and all that. But anyway, one of my high school assistants, a guy named Ben Hart, I went over to see him. I was home for Christmas. They were preparing for the Bluebonnet Bowl. Houston was playing Colorado. And I went and watched practice, just try to learn some football. And I went there at lunch. We kind of took off to lunch, and he told me that Emory Ballard had the A&M job, and that he and Melvin, as soon as that game was over, they were both coming to A&M. And I said, "Oh God, man, I'd love to come with you," And so he said, "Well, use us as a reference." And I said, "Oh, great." So on the way home, I was going back to Orange and had a lot of think time, and I said, "No way. If I call up there, they're not going, they're not going to answer my call or get me. He'll have a million calls." So anyway, I got up the next morning, drove to A&M, sat on the steps at G. Riley White till someone showed up. It was his assistant, Hazel Grubbs. And she says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm here to see Coach Ballard." She says, "He expecting you?" And I said, "No, not really." She said, "Do you know him?" I said, "No, not really." She said, "Well, today's a bad day. He's got coaches here to interview. He's got people coming in. He's got media, and it's just not a good day." And I said, "I realize that, but I've driven now 3.5 hours. If I could just say hello to him just for a minute." So she kind of shrugged and went on in, and I kind of opened the door. So I stayed around till after lunch. And about 1:30 or so, she came out. She said, "Look, Coach Ballard knows you've been here waiting all day. And if you want to wait till 4 o'clock, he's got just a little window there just for a minute to say hello." I said, "Oh, that's great." So at 4 o'clock, I went in and started telling him everything I could tell him why he should hire me. And he said, "I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got a number of people I'm talking to, but he said, I'll do this. I'll let you know before Christmas, one way or the other." I said, "Okay, Coach, that's great." And so I really, it's strange. I felt pretty good about it. I thought we had a good conversation. And Christmas Eve, 1971, he called me and offered me a job. And when he called me, I had the number one running back prospect in the state with me. Bubba Bean was with me. And so I asked Emory, I said, Emory, he said, we're going to report January the 2nd, because he was coaching in the Cotton Bowl on the 1st. And so I said, you want to talk to Bubba Bean? He said, well, yeah, that'd be the first stop. Once we get everybody signed up and everything, you and I'll take it. I said, no, Coach, you want to talk to him right now? And I said, I got him here. And so I went outside and told Bubba I was at my brother's house. And I said, hey, I put my hand over the phone, and I said, Bubba, everything I've been telling you about K-State's true. But that is a long way up there, and it's really cold. You'd have to get all new clothes, and it'd be hard for your mother to ever go watch you play. You know, if I just took a job at Texas A&M, that'd be a much better deal for you. So, long story short, he came and started his freshman year.
And that's a heck of a get to start off. You got one of the best running backs in the school history. Yeah, speaking of great running backs, though, that you could add now, Terrence Murphy and Reggie McNeil both told me that Adrian Peterson was going to come to A&M had you remained the head coach. Can you? Is there any truth to that?
There's a whole lot of truth to that. I had him in my football camp starting with the 8th grade. And I wonder what I told Tim Cass. I said, Tim, who's that kid over there? And he said, Coach, I'm not sure. I said, go get him. Tell him to come over here. I want to talk to him. So he came over. I said, hey, and I said, man, I can just look at you. You're a heck of an athlete, man. We're glad to have you here. So then we kind of established a relationship. So when he was a sophomore, you know, he'd come over every summer. And I got his mother. She came to pick him up. And I said, look, your son is really talented and he's got a bright future. But the most important thing right now is that he's taking the right courses and staying on top of his academics. And I said, when this fall, I'm going to have Coach Rucker. When he comes over to school, I'm going to have him call you and have you meet him up to school. And the two of you go to the guidance counselor and make sure he's taking all the courses he needs. And she said, oh, Coach Slocum, would you do that? I said, sure, I'd do that. I said, so anyway, we did that. And so then when we beat Oklahoma here, he was at the game. He was out in the middle of the field with Red Bryant and a bunch of other recruits out there. And with Reggie, he and Reggie had kind of grown up there in East Texas as big-time players, you know. So I don't have any doubt. And he told people that he would have come here if I'd have been the coach. So we'd have been off to a good start. I was having really the best recruiting year that I had in a while because I had that building coming, the football dressing room and all that stuff. We'd been so far behind, but we'd spent time. I'd spent my vacation traveling around the state raising money. I went to Bum Bright and got a $5 million gift from him. Back in those days, we didn't have the 12th Man Foundation. We didn't have guys out working like Jacob Green does now, raising money and trying to stay on top of that. I had to do it myself. And we got it done, so I was feeling really positive about that. We lost 2 games that year in overtime by 1 point, by 2 points, I think, and we beat the number 1 team in the nation. So, you know, we could have gone to a bowl game, and, you know, we're just in those games, it's really crazy with Texas Tech. It was 48-47.
Yeah.
Our kicker had hurt his back just before that, and the doctor says you're going to either have to have back surgery or give up football. So he elected to give up football. And so I had to have a true freshman kicker that day go out there, or we'd have never gone to overtime. But he missed the extra point, and it went into overtime. And I've often marveled at people say, well, you know, I see he had no offense or whatever. So Mike Leach was respected, and I respect him as an offensive, really bright offensive guy. Well, that day, my team scored 47, his team scored 48, and I would have scored without the injured kicker. If we'd have made an extra point, it had never even gone to overtime. So anyway, there's all kind of ways to look at things. It didn't in any way. When I went into coaching, I knew how coaching over the years. I knew how coaching worked. Coaches get fired, and So I knew that going in. I was very disappointed. But I wasn't bitter toward A&M. The first night after it happened, I had my two boys there, and they were upset and everything. And I said, "Let me tell you something. Texas A&M has been good to me. It's been good to our family, and I don't want to hear one more word about Texas A&M." I said, I went into coaching knowing how it works, and I've had some dear friends who I respect as coaches, but they got fired for whatever reason. All those combinations, and usually you get a couple of people. Fans are always going, if you win, you're smart that week. If you lose the next week, there's going to be a bunch of them say, well, we should have done this or that. But usually there's a couple of people, in some cases, they don't know squat about football. And they make those decisions a lot of time, and they do it all over the country. And that's why you get some bad results sometimes in some of those decisions. But it is what it is, and I've been blessed. We had a deal in Houston last November. I was honored at a deal down there, a charity deal. And at that dinner that night, I had my immediate family there, and we had 16 A&M degrees. And that, that's my son and his wife and granddaughters and their spouses and all. We had 16 A&M degrees there. So that night, the thought went through my mind, you made a good decision. And I had, the next morning, the morning after I got fired, 7:30 that morning, Mark White, the former governor of Texas, called me and said, "Coach, we got to get you up to Baylor, and we'll pay. We don't care what A&M is paying you. We'll pay you more if you'll come to Baylor." About an hour later, Drake McClain, who was chairman of the board, was on a business trip in New York. He called me and said, "Coach, we need to get you up to Baylor." Then the AD called, wanted to have lunch with me that day about coming to Baylor. And then about 10 o'clock that morning, University of Houston AD called me about coming to Houston. So I had those things swirling around, and I had to fast forward and say, okay, what I want to do with the rest of my life. One of the sad things for me, and you can check the record, most of the big-time coaches that had really good records, the Bobby Bowdens, all those people, I was 58 years old. And most of them, that's about when they really, that 58 to 68 was a good stretch for most of them. And it stands to reason. Number one, you're smarter. You've got more experience. You've got more identity going out. You've got former players who have kids. I got the nicest note yesterday from Jerry Bullett's son. And I'd recruited Jerry. He said, "Coach, I owe you so much." He said, "I came to A&M because of you. My dad came here, and you coached my dad. My dad met my mother here, but I never got to coach him. I got fired, and he was coming here, and Melvin Bullitt was his name. Really good athlete. Anyway." But anyway, it is why I'm doing all the talking here. What questions? What do y'all want to talk about?
Well, RC, we actually got to hit a break here, but I would love to get you in studio soon and just spend a whole hour with you if you don't mind at some point.
All right. Sounds good. Y'all go to your break. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, sir. Gig 'em. RC Slocum, the best. We got to hit a break because we're well past it, but he was fantastic as always. We'll come back. It's TexAgs Live. We got about 32 seconds, OB. One thing I can guarantee you about R.C. Slocum, he would never do the horns up thing if Texas fans were pointing at him with that. That I can guarantee.
I guarantee you're right with that. Gosh, just, again, such a fine gentleman. Oh, by the way, fought cancer, won that.
And I found out earlier his brother passed away this week, and I should have told him. I'll send him a message here. Thoughts and prayers to the Slocum family. Legendary man, and somebody that we should have on more often because he's just got story after story.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Every time I call him, always calls me back. He's always cooperative. Again, as finest gentleman in this profession that I've ever known.
OB, it's good to be back together, buddy. Thank you. When we come back on TexAgs Live, Tom Hart, he was at the game. We'll talk to him about it. That and more. It's TexAgs. And we are back here on TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. We're joined by our buddy Tom Hart, who was at the game at Reed Arena on Saturday. Tom, good morning, buddy. How you been?
I've been great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, that was a fun weekend in Aggieland, huh?
Hey, I got a question, and I'm probably going to get destroyed by some people here because I don't know. Did you make up the nickname Major Payne, or has that already been out there for Pharrell Payne? Because I heard you do the Major Payne reference. I'm like, I like that. It feels like it's probably been around, but I don't know if it has been.
I have no idea if it's already around. It just came out of my mouth.
Sounded great.
I mean, it makes sense. It should be a nickname. I mean, maybe that's like, middle-aged white guy who saw the Damon Wayans movie. Like, maybe that's on me for just that's the reference point, and maybe that's not cool to him. But I think it fits, right? It fit in the moment. Let me just put it that way.
Hey, so having a front row view at that game, just take me through what you saw from this A&M team, because I feel like everything we've known about them the last few years was on display, all the good things that we know, and some of the struggles and how they were able to overcome those struggles.
Yeah, I would say the biggest compliment to the program coming out of that game is that you can have such a strong second half against a really good opponent. Texas is not top 25. They're going to be in the bottom half of the league, but they've got a real first-round pick, and Trey Johnson may be the first overall pick in the draft, and they totally shut him down, and they forced him into his worst shooting night of his young career. But to be able to pull off a win against a great opponent like that and do it with Wade Taylor on the bench is not something I think that, and this may be unfair, even though they had good balances of talent, I don't think that's something that previous A&M teams over the last 2 years could have done. Because they got other guys who can score. He's the head of the snake for that team. And they'll want a good shooting night, but all of the things, as you mentioned, that A&M does so well under Buzz, offensive rebounding, points in the paint was huge in this one. I think they scored 45, 50 points in the paint. And Payne had a big part of that. But everybody knows their role on this team, and I thought that they had very good balance, even with, one of the best scorers in the league nursing that groin injury.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Live. Let's go back to the paint for a moment, because the way they've gotten to the paint in years past is different than what they can do this year, right? They could attack. Henry can give them a little bit. Julius Marble a couple years ago gave them a little bit. But I feel like the way Pharrell Payne gets his buckets is like it's a legit post presence that can live above the rim.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. And the five-man has always been a threat, like not an overwhelming threat, but something that you have to respect with this program. And I thought, not having Marble was a big part of kind of the early season struggles when he wasn't available as a post threat. And Coleman gave that to him a couple times. I think my biggest question for this program with that, and I just looked it up, 48 points in the paint. And I don't have his shot chart, but when Payne goes 5 of 6, like that's an efficient way to get to the paint. It's an efficient way to get the ball in the paint and not turn the ball over, which a lot of coaches are afraid of. Hey, why don't you feed your post more? I don't know, because we turn it over on 48% of the possessions we try to feed the big guy. I'd rather have my guard shoot it and crash the glass. That's something you hear from a lot of people. My concern is Payne is going to have to do this in conference play against teams with a much more formidable front court, especially from a size and length perspective. It's a big weakness for Texas. They just don't have the kind of guys that you would be concerned about in there. And A&M's blueprint for winning the game was obviously to get it inside and to crash the glass, as they always do. But I don't know who's up next for A&M.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, okay. Oklahoma's not the best example, but there will be teams in this league that have legit size and whether that's length or girth up front that you have to deal with. If he can do this regularly, man, sky's the limit for this team.
Well, let's kind of play with that theme for a second, because that's not how A&M has won games before. And oh, by the way, they still have that core unit. So to me, it's like, okay, they take on a team that is really good at that level. They've got the guard play that has been, Wade Taylor was not the star of this game, and yet here they won by 20.
Yeah, I think Phelps just brings a whole nother element to this team. The combination in years past with Boots Radford and with Wade Taylor was such, kind of a fire and ice type thing. Radford was so good at getting the hole. But I don't remember a lot of, it certainly wasn't a pass first backcourt. It wasn't a backcourt that was going to share the ball a lot. I thought the distribution was really good. The assist rate was high. And I think Phelps is more of a multi-dimensional guard. He can obviously be a score-first guy. That's what he was at previous stops. But to be a distributor as well, he had 4 assists in the game. He wasn't just looking to score; he was looking to share, especially with those paint touches, as you mentioned. That kind of evens out and spreads out defensively what teams are going to do to you. Because remember, A&M was able to blow them out in the second half and win this game by 20, despite not having a good shooting day. I mean, at all. Didn't make any deep shots. Finished 2 of 19 from 3. Wade Taylor's going to shoot better than that. He was 1 of 7. Hayden Hefner's going to knock down those open ones. He was 1 for 4. So as good as the win was, and there was efficiency in points of the offense, it was really the distribution of the ball I think that was most impressive. And you're always going to say this, so not to take anything away from it. 11 offensive rebounds. This first, and Dane Bradshaw brought this up during the game. Texas's first shot defense was pretty good, but it is absolutely exhausting when then you give up an offensive rebound. You've played really good defense for 20 seconds. Now you got to do it again for another 25. And next thing you know, you're playing defense for a minute. And I really think that impacted Texas on the offensive end.
You mentioned Hayden Hefner. It's interesting about his career at A&M because he's kind of a forgotten guy at times. And then he has these games where he has these moments you're like, oh, I remember when he did that, when he got that offensive rebound and he pushed it back up, or when he hit that big 3. He's got I would say, interesting is not the right word. He's a very valued part of what Buzz has done here the last few years.
Yeah, and listen, to be whatever you want to define as the goals for this team, obviously an NCAA tournament team. Is this an SEC championship team? Is this a second weekend team? Could this be a Final Four team? Any of those questions that get answered come back to who can you depend on and what can you plan on, in terms of dependability. And if Hayden Hefner can go out there and be consistent for you, then that's wonderful. Those are the type of players and plays you need to win championships. Yeah, but Wade Taylor's going to go off. He's going to have a 30-point game. Zurich Phelps is going to have a 30-point game this year. And maybe even Pharrell Payne can be a 15 and 12 guy. I don't know. That's awfully big numbers for an offense that scores 73, 75 points a game. But Hayden Hefner has to be reliable for you. And I thought his effort just on the first possession of the game showed I think it showed how much the game meant and the rivalry meant. And it was really cool having Texas in the building and kind of stirring up those emotions. But my impression was, here's a kid from Texas who knows the value of this game, who wants to show out against Texas, crashes the board so hard on that first possession, ends up with the putback. Boom, boom, boom. Some things go together. That kind of energy you usually get from Buzz's teams, but I just felt like it was at another level from Hefner in that game, especially the beginning.
Tom, here's an inside baseball question about basketball. You have to prepare for these games as a broadcaster, and in basketball especially, these rosters look completely different from year to year.
Yeah.
When you do an A&M game, though, it feels like you've been talking about the core of this team for the last 3-4 years.
Yeah, and that was the first thing, talking to the Texas coaching staff, that was the first thing they brought up. They're like, listen, they got 7 dudes back from a really good team. That makes you an outlier in college basketball. I'm getting ready for Arkansas and Ole Miss midweek. Arkansas, brand new roster, everybody gone. I had Kentucky earlier, brand new roster, everybody gone. Missouri, big turnover. Florida's got some of their backcourt back with Walter Clayton at 33 against Kentucky, but new faces there for Florida. And so what's the result of that? For most teams, the result of that, and I will have an inside baseball comp, for most teams, the result of that is you're going to get better as the season goes along because you're going to kind of figure out roles. Texas has had a lot of, not only have roster turnover, but fresh faces in key places and a bunch of injuries. It's interesting. I was just watching, I'm a sports nerd, so I noticed that Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina managed against each other in like a Puerto Rican league game this weekend, right? In baseball, you see the same thing because the guys who play over the entire course of the summer, Dominican, Puerto Rican league, whatever, is they arrive in spring training and they're like rip-roaring ready to go because they never took a break and they're already in the flow of their sport. While others, if you weren't playing over the course of the winter, you just kind of slowly ramp up. And think about pitchers. Oh, my first 4 starts, I'm going to build up to when I'm ready. Well, next thing you know, you're a big league pitcher and it's May and you're just now getting into your rhythm. A&M is like that guy who played baseball all summer and hit spring training already ready to go. The danger in that is, how do you make sure that you can operate at a steady level and you don't peak too early? But listen, in this league, everybody's going to get tested. You're going to know exactly where you stand because of the depth and the strength of this league.
All right, so I didn't pay attention to the game, but I saw the score and I was kind of surprised. Alabama, Oklahoma. Alabama ends up winning by like 28 points. What can you tell me about Oklahoma this year? Because, this is going to, regardless of what happened in that game on the road in Tuscaloosa, this is going to be a showdown that A&M is going to have to go on the road, like typically almost every other game in the SEC is going to be, or every game, and win on the road against a very good Oklahoma team that just got beat up badly.
And Jeremiah Fears has had a tremendous start as a freshman. I don't know that much about Oklahoma because nobody expected them to play this well. They may end up being the Arizona State of college basketball this year. Like Arizona State's picked to finish like dead last in the Big 12, and they come out and play really well. They've got a couple of guys that have been in the league before. Aggie was playing on Alabama's front court, but it's a bunch of new names. Porter Moser came into this year with a team that was expected to finish in the bottom third of the league. And when I ran into him during the football season, he kind of, hinted at, this is going to be tough for us. Like, we know the challenge and how good the rest of the league is. We know where we are from a personnel standpoint. So they have absolutely outperformed coming up to this point. The win against Oklahoma State, win against Michigan, win against Louisville, win against Arizona. Their non-conference was awesome. And, what I'm afraid we saw this weekend, and I hope I'm wrong, is that instead of this incredible depth from top to bottom in the league, that the top tier and all these teams that are in the top 10 are double figures better than the next wave, which would be the middle of the league. I think 6 out of 8 games this weekend were decided by 20 points or more. Every game was a blowout as regarded by Ken Palm, how he measures it. They weren't close. And I think that's more of a compliment to the teams that are in the front end of this league. And it's also a compliment to what teams like Oklahoma did in the offseason by, being one of the last undefeated teams in the non-conference, being one of the last undefeated teams and putting together really big wins, including winning Atlantis.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Live. Tom, what is it going to take? A lot of it's matchups, I know, but for the SEC, I hate to say break through the NCAA tournament, but there have been Final Four appearances. But for the bulk of the teams to have the success that we see during the regular season.
Yeah, this league hasn't won a national championship since 2012, I believe, and I think that was Anthony Davis at Kentucky. Like, think about that. That was a long time ago. This is the new landscape of college sports, right? It's not only tied into the great non-conference that basically everybody in the league had, including South Carolina, likely the worst team, beat one of the ACC's best teams in Clemson. So I fully respect what they accomplished in the non-conference. However, let's keep in mind that when you grow by 2, you collect more wins, and same thing happening in the Big Ten. Like, the Big Ten has gotten larger. Right now, the experts say that, well, the SEC may make history and get 11 or 12, and the Big Ten could get 13 or 14 in. The answer to your question is going to lie in A, luck. A lot of it's luck in the postseason. But B, can those elite teams, can they keep this level of play up all year long? And I'm looking mainly at Auburn, because their top 5 players are 5 of the most efficient players in college basketball. Like, they are playing as good a basketball as we've seen in a really, really long time. Their only loss came, I believe, at Duke in the challenge. Does Tennessee have enough, right? Chaz Lanier, who's shooting the lights out for him, has been fantastic. Do they have enough? Does Kentucky have enough elite talent? They've got a great collection of talent. But do they have that one dude who can go out and get you 30 and win a game in a top 10 showdown? All of that, like, we won't know the answers to any of that. And all of that being said, my guess is that the way the NCAA tournament works, it's going to be like a 7, 8, 9 seed out of this league that turns out to be just as dangerous as anybody. And it's a matter of, you're running a 400-meter race. Do you have enough for the kick, or did you get burned out in the first 350 that you don't have enough to finish the race? It's going to be whoever's healthy at the end that has that chance.
Tom, I'm going to answer the question I'm about to ask you before you answer it. Well, my answer is no, I'm not concerned. Are you concerned about the SEC being the fact that the SEC is not the top dog again in college football. And before you answer that, I'm just going to say I feel like it was a down year overall for the league, okay? And I still feel like they got screwed last year by Georgia not getting in. So now I'll let you take it from there.
No, I'm not concerned, and here's why. And like, to make it clear, when we go visit with coaches in other leagues and talk with programs elsewhere, like, the thought is we're trying to play catch up with the SEC. Like, everything that we're doing, all the energy we're putting forth is just to try and catch up to them and tread water, and maybe we can win on any given Saturday. I thought that's what Notre Dame pulled off in the Sugar Bowl. I was down there calling the game with our crew for ESPN Radio, and I was talking with Notre Dame's special teams coach, Marty Biaggi, before the game, and he said, he kind of winked and said, yeah, we got a couple of things in play. They needed those things. They needed those special teams plays to try and beat Georgia. Georgia's a much more athletic team than Notre Dame, more talent at just about every position. I know I'm kind of going out on a limb there by making that comment, but there's very few players across Notre Dame where you'd say, okay, I would definitely take him over the Georgia guy at his same position. So think about everything that Notre Dame did right. They had a 98-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. They pulled off the punt switcheroo on fourth down that was a huge play in that game that ended up giving them a first down via penalty. And they were playing against Georgia's second-string quarterback. And they had to do all of that stuff to win the game. So, no, I think that especially with the investment teams are making in the portal, payroll, however you want to phrase it, look at the offseason LSU's having already in the portal. Like, they don't want to let another year like last year happen again. So Brian Kelly's going out and spending money and filling positions. Missouri just got a key safety from UNLV, a guy who'd been in the league and been at Texas, Jalen Catalon. The investment at individual schools and programs and coaching staffs is too strong for me to be concerned about that from a big picture standpoint.
Tom, of the 4 teams left, I think I know your answer, but I'll just ask, what would you rank the chances of winning the national championship? Who would be your 1A, your 1B, C, D?
Ohio State 1, Texas 2, Penn State 3, Notre Dame 4.
Oh, really?
Is that
okay?
Yeah. What did you have?
I had Notre Dame 3. I think Notre Dame beats Penn State, at least as of today. But I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. The thing about Ohio State, I have thought all season long they should be the best team in college football. They had some moments where you're like, they're not even playing well, but they have turned it on since the Michigan game. And if they can keep doing it, they're going to win the national championship. Obviously, that's an understatement. But that's the thing I worry about them is, are they the team that they've been the last 3 weeks, or are they the team that we kind of saw during the regular season?
This new era of college football allows Ohio State, not that they wanted to only score 10 points against Michigan, but it allows them mulligans, number one, and it also allows them, probably because of their strength of schedule and the league they play in and the decals or lack thereof on their helmet, allows them a long runway, right? Not everybody's going to get that runway. Not everybody's going to get multiple mulligans, but Alabama was still in the discussion with 3 losses. Like, that's the power of their strength of schedule. That's the power of their league, power of their name, that they're even in the conversation. I say all that to say this. You're going to have more teams like, let's say, last year's Chiefs. The Chiefs lost 4 games during the regular season. Their wide receiver core was very average. They were plagued by drops. They just kind of muddled through. They win the Super Bowl, right? And the Chiefs this year haven't been elite, but I wouldn't be surprised, nobody would, if they win the Super Bowl. Ohio State's performance against Michigan was one of the worst we've seen from a top program. Now, it was a rivalry game and all that, and I get it, but I thought they were going to go by the wayside. I like that this format allows for that, because it also allows room then for Cinderellas to play in the first round. The thing with Cinderellas is outside of the very rare VCU, George Mason, Loyola, most Cinderellas in the NCAA tournament are gone by the second weekend. So we're built for this. So I don't even remember what your original question was, but I think Ohio State is certainly ramping up, and they're allowed then to be like a pro team. Hey, the regular season is over. It's time to focus on going to winning a championship. And that's what you can do in a lot of pro leagues, baseball, NBA, NFL. Just get to the postseason and then execute.
Tom, great stuff, brother. Thanks so much, man. Have a great week.
David, thanks. Hey, thanks to the Republic for staying open late for me. That was really nice of them.
Hey, thanks for the call. I would have joined you.
We're right there. We had a seat.
Man, like, you guys never call me because I go to bed at 9. I guess that's why.
Yeah. That must have been it.
Later,
Next
bro.
time.
You got it.
All right, see you.
Tom Hart. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back. We'll do Around Aggieland, and Dr. John Thornton going to be in studio. We'll chit-chat some Aggie basketball for the remainder of the 9 o'clock hour, then Billy Liucci for the 10 o'clock hour. We'll have Buzz Williams at the top of that. Let's talk a little Rollo Insurance. Priorities matter. God, family, and country, that's their priorities. That's what they're all about. It's not just what they do. It's the kind of people that they are at the Rollo Insurance Group. They are the ones that are going to take great care of you for all of your insurance needs. There's so much fatigue of corporate gamesmanship. Restore your confidence in the value of relationship-centered consultation. What you need to do is go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs to find your own personal agent today. 60 offices in Texas. Their headquarters is on Highway 6. Multiple ways to reach them. You can call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. Talk to the guys. I talked to Morgan just the other day. You can talk to them about life. You can talk to them about your car insurance, homeowners insurance, you name it. It's Rollo Insurance, rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. Welcome back in. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Friends, it is time for Around Aggieland, brought to you by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website is normandystatebank.com. And with that, we have Kay Naegeli.
Good morning. Things feel back to normal. We're all in studio. It's not cold outside when it should be cold outside. You a fan of the cold?
No, I hate the cold. I will pick 105 over 20 all the time. Like, if I'm visiting a place that's known for the cold, cold's cool.
You're used, or like you're prepared for it?
Well, not only prepared for it, but like if it's something I can visit.
Yeah.
But I don't like eventually I want to be able to go outside and not like freeze.
Yeah.
Like I'll take heat over every time.
See, I'm normally in the same boat as you, but since it's been so hot as of late, I feel like now we're deserving of like.
So you like this cold?
I mean, not like if it goes on longer than 2 months, I'll be sick of it.
Here's the deal: give me snow, or I don't want it.
It's true.
Like I just don't want to be cold and like look at brown grass. I want to see ice, okay, or I want to see snow.
Valid. Yeah. That's
Sorry.
Completely valid. So
We got some.
After our weather report we've been doing a lot of weather reports over here. I don't know if you.
I was listening a little bit on Friday. I understand we did a little bit of a weather report with Luch. And
OB. Yeah, he had a great. He was correct about the cold front that came through. So that's all that matters. Anyways, let's get to Around Aggieland. The Aggies football team added former Washington cornerback Jordan Shaw. He announced his intentions to transfer to A&M. He had a redshirt year at Indiana, and then he went to Washington. He started in 8 games for the Huskies in 2024, making 35 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a fumble recovery, and 6 pass breakups. That is A&M's 12th addition through the portal. Another great pickup. Also on the football front, Mike Evans entered Week 18, needed 5 catches and 85 yards for a $3 million bonus. Also, and then on the last play of the game, the Bucs could have kneeled, but Baker Mayfield found at number 13 for a 9-yard catch to surpass that 1,000-yard mark. Just an incredible career he has had. That is 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and he would also tie the great Jerry Rice in an all-time record with, like I said, 11 consecutive seasons with 1,000 yards. Just absolutely ridiculous numbers there, and Mike Evans is just an all-time great Aggie, so we're very happy for him. On the hardwood, A&M and Texas met for the first time this year in the Cotton Holdings Lone Star Showdown with a commanding second half from A&M. Zurich Phelps led all scores with 18 points in the renewed rivalry. Next up, they will have Oklahoma at Oklahoma on Wednesday, January 8th at 8 p.m. That's a late start on SEC Network, but good to kick off the SEC slate with both new conference opponents. And then women's basketball had a 16-point deficit at the half, but they were able to overcome it. It was a heck of a performance in the largest comeback in 7 years, largest comeback of Joni Taylor's career here, and also the first top 25 win of Joni Taylor's career here with a 60-58 victory over number 25 Ole Miss. Defensive efforts held the Rebels to just 17 second half points, and they went without a field goal in the fourth quarter, just 16 points there. In the fourth, Solo Williams had 18. That was a new season high for her, and a massive three-pointer late to push the Aggies over and grab the lead. They will have number 2 South Carolina next on this Thursday at 4 p.m. on ESPN2. They're number 2 in the nation, so that should be a good one.
I feel like they're either number 1 or 2 every year.
They're ridiculous. So the Aggies got a good test up ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Great job. Appreciate you. When we come back, Dr. John Thornton will, I believe, be in studio. If not, we'll call him up, but I believe he's coming here to studio. Talk a little Aggie basketball. We'll continue talking Aggie basketball. We'll have Buzz Williams at 10 o'clock, Billy throughout the 10 o'clock hour. Right now, Milliken Reserve, they're a farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces, and they have a mission to build a healthy community around nature. They're dedicated to the conservation of a healthy lifestyle, respect for that native landscape, and, of course, the wildlife. 2,600 acres of open space, farms, and trails. They want to connect families to nature and to each other. They have an extensive network of trails throughout a wooded landscape that includes walking and equestrian paths, creeks and ponds, and gathering areas. If you like to be outdoors like me, I'm Mr. Outdoors. That's actually the new nickname. You can go hiking there, biking, canoeing, kayaking, equestrian trails, evening yoga, summer camps, music festivals, farmer markets, and farm tours. You can learn more at millikenreserve.com. That website is millikenreserve.com. We're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Got Dr. John Thornton with us here. And it's interesting because during football season, after like week 3 or 4, people got used to the new studio. You hadn't been here since the new studio, so like this was all new to you.
No, it is. And matter of fact, it was never not impressive, but this is way more impressive.
This is pretty good, yeah. Hey, this basketball team, there's something about them since Buzz got here, but I would say since 21 that like the core group, that a bunch of them are still here. There's such a likable, fun group to root for. And I know there's been some frustrating times, obviously the 8-game losing streak, and then they turn around and should have been in the NCAA tournament, and the runs the last couple of years. But they're just a fun team to root for, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. And it's kind of a different look from what's going around in college athletics everywhere. But to get to know your players, to actually interact with them, and them interact with you, and enjoy being here and enjoying the crowds that come to support them. There's a symbiotic relationship there, because to your point, they're fun guys. What's not to like about this team? You have an All-American, we have an inside presence, we've got a great record going for us, we've played a tough schedule, and we opened up with Texas and beat them to start conference play.
Well, and how significant is it to beat? I know Texas wasn't ranked, but talent-wise, they're a ranked talent team. To beat them by 20 in a game where Wade Taylor isn't your star. He isn't your 1A player.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, because you look at the depth, they have supposedly a one-and-done player, right, as a freshman, Johnson, and then you have the supporting cast that they have. They're long, 6'11", 6'10", very athletic, had 2 losses, so here we go, and then you go and do what you did in the second half to kind of run the floor on them like that. So to me, it's like when you can win like that against a talented team like that, that's a pretty good indicator that you pretty much have your identity pat and you're playing to that identity. And what Buzz's teams are, playing hard, going to rebound their tails off. Defensively, they're going to just wear you out. And then the offensive part of it, just the togetherness that they play with in the bits and pieces, parts that they all make up for this team, it's really it's unusual at this day and time.
Pharrell Payne really gives them a different dimension. They've had some low post presence, but different, right?
Yeah.
The kind of presence that he is in the middle.
Yeah, he is, and it's fun because, and we talked about it a little bit before in the broadcast, that seeing CJ and Pharrell and Zurich coming on. Now, they've all been players somewhere else, but you see them getting better in this system. Mm-hmm. And Pharrell has really come, and they've all come a long ways, but Pharrell has really added a presence that has just been tremendous. They had 6'11", 6'10", 6'10", and Pharrell and obviously Andy and Solo and Henry, they all are presences in the key. But when you think about it, Pharrell is kind of one of those guys you got to, where is he?
Right.
Because he plays strong. He can absolutely explode and get shots. He influences. And so, yeah, he's been a dimension that we haven't had consistently. And it's really cool to see him mature like that.
Along with having him there and helping out the guard rotation, because I think having a presence like that helps them out. I also think he helps out a guy like Henry Coleman, right? That gives him a little bit more. He can play his game more than having to be a back-to-the-basket guy.
Yeah, and I love the way that Buzz mixes up his, we want to call him a 4-man and a 5-man. It's kind of a positionless basketball thing, because you see Pharrell catch it out and take the postman away from the basket, then square up and face him up and go to the hole. But to see the different combinations, you see Solo and Andy in at one time. You see Henry and Pharrell in at one time. You see Henry and Solo starting the games. But you see that's awkward for people to consider matchups when you're trying to defend. Mm-hmm. What it takes to guard Henry and what it takes to guard Pharrell, what it takes to guard Andy. As you're a coach, it's kind of interesting to make you have to think about that all the time and the substitution patterns.
And with Zurich, too, who we always knew he had the talent. We played against him last year, right? He's got, but I feel like it's what you said earlier. He's now starting to get this system. Right.
And think about that, though. He's a senior. He's played in another place, and this is happening all over the country. But to come in and fit into what we have to do to be successful today, and the way Buzz builds it here and his coaches build it here, that's an adjustment. Mm-hmm. And you see him not only adjusting and being that's the biggest smile I've seen on his face since he's been here, as he was kind of taken over there in the latter stages of that game, because we're kind of killing the clock a little bit. They're still having to guard him one-on-one, and he's a threat to get to the rim in a heartbeat. And then also he made that great alley to Pharrell on the other side when they stepped and helped.
One of the things, like we all go back to our youth, or my favorite time of college basketball was late 80s, early 90s, where guys routinely stayed with a program for a few years, and you knew them when they went to the NBA draft. You knew who everybody was, right?
Right.
That's what this team feels like. I'm not saying these guys are all going to get drafted in the NBA, but being with the team for a few years, the fans get to know you, and then you get to know the system differently.
No, I'm totally on board with that. And then, everybody builds towards that. I don't know how many of them get there. All I know is we're there. I mean, if you saw the end of that game, they understand the gravity of the situation, open conference play against Texas, and then to do what they did to win the game, and then the celebration afterwards, the different things, the different personalities of our guys, and interacting with the student body, sawing varsity's horns off. I mean, I'm not sure that happens at a lot of places these days.
Let's talk Hayden Hefner, because he's one of those names that you forget about and then you remember, and he has these moments in games you're like, I don't know if they win the game the way they do without his contributions. Look, I think they're a better team than Texas, regardless of Wade being out there or Henry being out there. But what Hayden did was he had these moments that were key in runs.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up, because if you go back over this non-conference schedule that we played, and hopefully as we go into conference play, we've had people do that at times. Hayden was a perfect example of that. He's way more athletic than people think he is. You see him finish at the rim, and he's in a different role now. It used to be he would be a get-back guy in a lot of circumstances where he wouldn't be able to go to the rim on the offensive glass because he'd be responsible for some form or fashion of preventing the break. Well, now, the way we play now and who's in the lineup, he gets to go to the boards, and those putbacks were tremendous, and then he's a definite threat in the three-point situation when that occurs in the game. So, yeah. And kudos to him for staying the course, finding his role even more as it's defined every year. And, big part of the way we started the game and the way we started the second half. When he got 2 big offensive rebounds, and, of course, he hit a big 3 at a critical time.
This team, their ability to get offensive rebounds, we think about Anderson Garcia. And, yes, he is a huge part of that.
He is.
But it's just the mindset, right?
Right. Well, it is, and Buzz talks about it as, everybody thinks of bigger players as being the board guys. Well, it's imperative that our guards rebound, especially the way that we rotate defensively, because sometimes you're going to find yourself on the offside when we've switched or when we pressured and we're trying to create some havoc on their part. So you have to be there, and it's team rebounding. It might be 2 people blocking out somebody, or it may be crashing the glass offensively when the predictable shots occur, as long as you know your responsibilities. But, I mean, you just can't say we're going to be a good rebounding. You work on this from day one, and we are very, very special at that. That's got to be one of the things we hang our hat on every night.
Manny Obaseki, I'm waiting for him to have that explosion like we saw at the end of last season. But I feel like he was a key player on Saturday, because when Wade first went out, his ability to kind of calm things, and sometimes he's an erratic player, I know, but he calmed things down, he ran the point, and his athleticism really made him a mismatch for Texas.
No, I agree, and because we've seen him where he's, in particular parts of the game where he's been pretty dominant, right? So you say, okay, Manny, be that guy tonight. But I will say that his role and what he was asked to do with Wade being out, running the point and switching it off with Zurich and him, that's a lot of responsibility. And then plus, you still want to take advantage of the mismatches that he creates, because he's strong, he can get in the paint, he can go by, he's quick. So, there's a fine line about I'm running the show here, but I've also got to be able to take advantage of breaking people down if they overplay.
What did you see from a schematic standpoint in the second half that made them so effective guarding the 3? Because that's something in a couple years past, they weren't great at stopping the 3. Right. This year, routinely, teams are shooting below their normal average.
And I think that's one of the things about having these guys be together for so long. And defense is hard, and it's also kind of complicated with the way that you run it and what you're trying to do to make it awkward for people. And they are synced as I've seen them, as far as the team is knowing what they're supposed to be, where they're supposed to be, where the help comes from, when to get there. They're better at that. If you go back to that, and this might be not scientific, but In the first half, I think they scored twice on out-of-bounds plays, 2 threes, and I think they maybe had 2 more threes in transition, which, typically in the half-court setting were really pretty good, which you noted. Well, those were kind of awkward for us because we were really good, prepped up for what out-of-bounds plays, but they're good players, and they hit 2 shots that way. So, yeah, we've come a long ways in what we cover, and I do like our body of work and who we play. Texas Tech shoots the heck out of it. We did a great job against them. Creighton shoots the heck out of it. We did a great job against them. Oregon lost the game, but we did a good job. We hold people below their 3-point field goal percentage. I think almost every time we play them. But that's hard work, and that's really togetherness on the defensive end.
Where can Wade Taylor take his game next? Because, this guy's just writing records, right? Like he's second all-time leading scorer. He'll probably catch that here soon. Just where can he take his game?
Well, what I like about him is, and you've watched him too, this is really kind of overstated, but if he didn't have a good game, we're really fighting an uphill battle. I'm not saying a good game, I'm an explosive game, lots of points, do a lot, thing. Well, now we're so I guess we've got different pieces now. And so what he's been asked to do is always be a threat. And that's what I don't think people understand. This is going to be a long answer, but he's getting their best. He's no secret. They're on him, from the get. And it's double teamed. It's get the ball out of his hands. Don't let him catch it back. That's a lot of work, right? But it's creating problems for them because they have to do special things to kind of curtail his influence. So that's making opportunities for others. So good. But at the same time, it makes it tough on him. I think he showed great judgment this year. When to go, when not to go. He does have heat checks every once in a while. What
are you doing?
When he shoots from Gary Blair and makes them, that's okay. That's the signature. But yeah, I think he's done a great job of. He's such an integral part or important part to other people being better. A good example is when I think when CJ got hot against ACU. He got the ball to him, right? Mm-hmm. But to do those little things that he does to make other people better, I think he's really developed that role even more so this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, and this is just a dumb thought from an analyst, and I think it makes sense, and Dr. John, follow me up on this, is that the fact that he doesn't have to be the guy every night, he will be more fresh at the end of the season, at the SEC tournament, and also in the NCAA tournament.
I agree with you. And if they take you off the ball and not make you be the guy that orients the offense in half court, right? And Zurich can do that. Manny's done it from time to time. But when you have those two dudes doing that, and then you have him playing off the ball, running him over screens, changing sides of the floor, moving the basketball, that's a tough thing to follow, right? Because he gets his shot off like that. So yeah. And it takes the pressure off of him some, and it frees him up some. So I love that part.
Oklahoma coming up, they're really good. They got embarrassed, but I think all SEC teams this year are going to probably have a game where they're like, I don't know what they'll.
No, you're right. And it's been that way through maybe half of your opponents in the history, but nowadays you show up anywhere and you're not ready to play, you're going to have some issues. And that place is a tough place to play. In that their style of play, they're going to play super fast. They've got huge depth, and they're going to get up and down the floor on you and get on rolls, which they did. 107 points. And I know Porter's a great coach. Defensively, they're really good. But when you take, like Fears is a very good point guard, exceptional. But you take him and put him in that environment for the first time, that's a lot to ask. Yep. And especially if they're shooting it like that. And Oklahoma didn't get off shooting like they normally do. And I think that, enforcing your will in that environment is kind of tough. And not kind of tough, it's real tough. And so, yeah, you got to be able to figure that out. But, it's going to be a fun ride because on any given night, pick a given night and which games are the most important. You know what it is? It's your home games, right? We start off great. Now, if you go on the road and get one, that puts you ahead of the group.
Yep, that puts you ahead. Dr. John, thanks for your time, sir.
Oh, enjoyed it. Oh, hey, thanks for the invitation to the new place.
Let's do it again, all right?
All right.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with more. It's TexAgs Live. And we're back. We call it TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Something I found interesting on the chat, Kalita, at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. You know, we have both fan bases, when I say both, from the game on Saturday and it's like, it's funny how this is all fan bases. This is not dedicated just to one. How when we lose at something or win at something is not that important.
Right.
Right? Like, oh, only football matters. I don't care. And then they win like a, tuxedo wearing contest. And like, see, Texas won again. They all matter, guys, right? Like,
I mean, yeah. I think if A&M would have won in football and had Texas won or Saturday, the narrative would have been reversed. It's just whatever fits.
Don't get me wrong. I understand for most of our fan base or of this show, I don't even know if most, but I know a large portion of our fans and a large portion of their fans that football is the only thing that matters. I get that. I like to win at tic-tac-toe. I get upset when I lose, okay? I think you like to win at most things in life too. Losing at anything sucks.
Yeah.
You want to say that it doesn't matter as much? It's not football. Oh, look, if we're keeping score, it matters. Yeah. And if you're, what is the name of the President's Cup, whatever they call it, like the Texas has won many times when they have the right? The Director's Cup, excuse me. Yeah. If that matters, then this matters, okay? And by the way, if we're going to talk about the last three sports, okay? Football we lost, but baseball we eliminated Texas.
Mm-hmm. And we had beaten them earlier in the season too.
Volleyball they split, but A&M won the most recent one. So I'm just saying, A&M and Texas softball went at it in a phenomenal series that Texas has ended up winning. So look, it's supposed to go back and forth. They all matter, all right? And that's it. When we come back here on TexAgs Live, Buzz Williams, Billy Liucci, your text messages at 979-693-1150. It's TexAgs Live. And we are back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go straight to the Boss Firearms Hotline. That's where we're joined by Buzz Williams. A couple days after A&M takes care of business against Texas, a huge second half, big game against Oklahoma ahead. Buzz, good morning. Happy New Year, sir. How are you?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well.
Hey, so this game against Texas, and please, I mean this with respect. I hope you take it that way. I feel like it was an introduction for some folks that are late to getting to basketball on some of these additions. And I'm talking about my children who watch every game of yours of the A&M basketball team. Like, Dad, this Pharrell Payne kid, yes, he is good. He's been really good all season long. Dad, this Zurich Phelps kid yes, he's been good all season long. It was fun to see, I guess, folks who haven't watched as intently as I have, like, get into these new players, and they feel like they've been a part of the team for a long time.
Yeah, our returning players have done an incredible job of welcoming CJ, welcoming Gochi, Zoo. I think that they're very similar in regards to the character of our returners. I think the relationships were able to be built maybe a little sooner and faster than normal in this day and age of rocket management. I think our staff was literally perfect in identifying the skill set of what our team needed, to what needed to be added. And then I think the vetting process, even though it happens at a very fast rate in the portal, of regardless of their skill and regardless of their talent, if they don't fit how we want to work and how we do work and the pace at which we operate, then their talent becomes negated. And I think the vetting process of our staff, with their families, with those young men, I think all of that kind of lined up that they would fit well. And I think from summer session one, I think our returning players have done a remarkable job welcoming them into how we operate on the floor, but maybe just as important of how we go about things off the floor. And so all of those guys at some point, whether it was Saturday, whether it's next Saturday or next Tuesday, whatever it ends up being, all of those guys are going to be able to impact winning, not just offensively, but also defensively.
Talking to Buzz Williams here on TexAgs Live. Buzz, I'm going to ask just a strategy question. In the limited time that you have at halftime, how do you implement halftime changes? And obviously, in this game against Texas, it was flawlessly done. Like, how does that information get disseminated so quickly, and then seeing the application of it?
Yes, sir. I think the staff, some of the rules have changed on the video that you can watch live during a game, like the NBA does. You can now do that. I think that's had an impact. Obviously, during the first half, I'm not able to watch what they're watching during dead balls, during timeouts. I think they've collaborated in a really good way of how to be efficient and effective in watching that stuff and determining if the decisions need to be made prior to halftime. And then we also analytically probably pay attention to too many things, to be honest. Some of it we disseminate to our team. Some of it is just for our group. And so that's kind of the first thing that we talk about as we get off the court. Even before we get into the locker room, they've got a lot of analytical things that we are discussing on the path to the locker room, so that I would say, to be honest and transparent, there's probably a 2-minute delay, sometimes maybe even approaching 3 if you talk about offense and defense as a staff before we begin to visit with our guys on some of the good things that we've done, some of the things that we haven't done well, maybe some of the things that we want to change, or our initial approach and how we practice, we're staying with it. We just need to be better at it. It's a myriad of things, but it's all kind of taking place in real time at a fast rate. But you got to be careful that, in my opinion, you have to be careful that you don't try to do too much. And now our guys' brains are full of things and they're not convicted by, I have to do it like this. And so I think our staff has done a really good job in utilizing those changes, but also in making the decisions on what we want to adjust and what we don't want to adjust.
Buzz, fun night Saturday. Just always good to see you and the guys enjoying it down the stretch of any basketball game, much less an SEC game. And what is that? You know, the rivalry because you coached in it before. I know in the preparation it probably doesn't factor in a whole lot for you, but just getting those two teams back together on their home floors, where does that weigh with you being a guy that's come up through the ranks in Texas and has coached in this actual game? Obviously, neutral site since you've been here, but the first time you guys are going to do a home and home.
Yes, sir. You know, a lot of the guys on our team, Liucci, they were toddlers.
Yeah.
You know, like they know bits and pieces, but like understanding the depth and the layers of it, especially if they're not from Texas. I think if you talk to Zoo or if you talk to Mo, if you talk to, you know, like they probably know 15% more. I think Henry's kind of a connoisseur of anything sports related. He probably has the same level of respect for how all of this has changed, not only specific to us and them, but just throughout the landscape of college athletics. I was careful just to be vulnerable in what I'm saying to you.
Yeah,
I don't want to make it about me in any way. I don't want to talk about my relationship with AC. Our kids know AC. I've brought AC in to talk to our guys, not about the shot.
Yeah.
I brought AC in to talk about his journey since he finished playing and how he's become assistant GM of the Thunder. So, like, yeah, I think there's bits and pieces that they were aware of. I think there's excitement that it's game number one. I think it's excitement that we're at home, all of those things. But, like, I was careful not to spend too much energy or emotion and try to give them historical context.
Yeah,
because I don't know that changes the job that's required. And I just to be honest, I kind of presented with the same thing this morning before I get with the guys this afternoon on what I want to say specific to the history with Oklahoma. And I just don't know. I don't know how much it impacts these 18-year-olds who literally have no idea what I'm talking about. Some of these 22-year-olds, they may know bits and pieces because they've heard their parents talk about it, but I don't know that it necessarily applies in between the lines.
Yeah, I think just sitting there the other night, I was thinking about it, and the same thing you said. Like, it just feels like, if anything, maybe there's a different energy in that crowd for them to feed off of, and then it feels like, you know, the days of all Texas high school kids versus all Texas high school kids, and those days are, you know, long behind us, it feels like. But Buzz, so I'm watching the game, and I'm sitting there at halftime, and I watched the Sunday Night Football last night between the Vikings and Lions, and I think that game was.
How about the Navarro College Texas A&M connection of Coach Aaron Glenn, Coach Campbell, and I'm not sure that OC. He may have some savant tendencies. I don't know anything about football, but he sure does look like he's really good at his job.
I think that OC is the most fun, entertaining coordinator in sports, you know, in football right now. And AG with the Navarro, I remember getting to A&M, and there was a guy that you could not throw the football on. And speaking of Texas, had a 95-yard pick six in that game. You know, both those guys are soon to be head coaches. I thought
we lived in the same dorm at Navarro.
No way. I didn't know.
Yeah, we're the exact same age. Went to Navarro at the exact same time. His college coach obviously was the football coach and AD at Navarro, who eventually gave me a room and board scholarship to be a manager for the department, which meant I worked for Coach McElroy and for Coach Orr. And I lived in the dorm, so I've known Aaron since I was 17 years old.
Well, we need to make a postseason trip up to Detroit, although we may be making one just over to New Orleans, because I feel like that's about to be his next step. He'd deserve it. That's wild. I'd imagine he returned like every other punt for a touchdown at Navarro. As a defensive guy,
there's some really good players.
Oh, yeah. Back then, all the time, they would come. And listen, as a defensive coach, I know you had to appreciate that second half effort by the Lions, which I think, did they shut the Vikings out in the second half, and that explosive offense and what they did to Jefferson? You guys in the second half.
And they have more guys. They have more guys hurt than they do playing.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Defensive side of the ball, it looks like to me.
Oh, yeah. They have so many guys hurt, including probably the best defensive end in the NFL right now.
I would be the best one, yeah.
Yeah, and they haven't, but to watch that defense, I'm looking at halftime here, you guys go from giving up 37.5 to 23. What was the key on that end of the floor? Because it really did remind me of that game last night. It was literally like a 1 or a 4-point game at halftime turned into a blowout, and this one was a tie game, and then you guys came out in the second half on that run. It's similar in the way they unfolded. And I thought based off of defense, rebounding, a.k.a. physicality and mental toughness.
Yes, I think all of that is true. I also think that within how we play defensively, it somewhat correlates to what we're trying to accomplish offensively.
Mm-hmm.
We had 5 turnovers in the first half. 4 of those turnovers were live ball. That they ended up scoring on. They scored 12 points out of their 37 in transition. They are uber talented and ranked the 4th most efficient team in the country in transition. And so defensively, you have to figure out how not to let them score in transition. And I think you only fuel their fire when on offense you give them a live ball turnover. So I think going from 5 to 2, in the turnover category, first half to second half, was really big. I also think the second thing is we never made any threes. And I know that we shot, in essence, the same amount of threes in both halves. But I think the shots from 3 in the second half were more predictable than they were in the first half. And when you shoot for us as committed as we are to the offensive glass, we're always going to send 3 guys to the glass. Sometimes we're sending 4. And if we're shooting an unpredictable 3 and we have not the offensive rebounding that we want because we didn't know that person was about to shoot it, now all of a sudden we're also not getting back. If you're not an offensive rebounder, if you're not a go-get, you're a get-back. And if our get-backs are not getting back because it was an unpredictable shot, and our go-gets are not going to get because it was an unpredictable shot. Now the floor is going to be broken, and we're going to really struggle getting our defense set against the team that wants to play as fast as they did. And I thought in the first half, we probably shot 3 for sure. You could argue 4 non-predictable shots, and we don't have the margin to be able to give 4 shots away where we are not going to get fouled, which is a big part of what we're trying to do offensively, and we're not going to get the offensive rebound. Our offensive rebound percentage in the first half was the lowest it had been in any half, in any game all season long.
Really?
We were at 8. Yeah, we were at 18%. Some of that's because we're turning the ball over, so there's not a shot. And then some of that, we took too many unpredictable shots.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be perfect. We are going to shoot some in the course of a game, but we shot too many of those in the first half, and they just happened to be threes. So now all of a sudden it's a long shot and a long rebound, and they're scoring on 0 and 1 pass possessions. And I think our defense is very correlated to our offense. Our offense actually helps our defense, and too many possessions in the first half, that wasn't the case.
Well, there was a stretch where the game was, I think you can check me if I'm wrong here. I thought it was in the first half, but I think it was when Wade and Zoo were in foul trouble there with a couple fouls or whatever. Yeah. And it was a combination, and I'm not gonna be exact on it because I got 6 guys, but it was like Solo, Jace, CJ, Andy, Payne, and Manny. It was some combo of that, and I was going, man, I love this group defensively and rebounding, like they're going to put the clamps on. But you guys, that whole stretch started to really, I thought, execute on the offensive end as well, and I'm sure a lot of that had to do with the rebounding, but I just thought they did more offensively than I expected them to go like lockdown mode, but it felt like the scoring was going well too during that stretch, which really caught my attention.
We had 2 turkeys during that stretch, and you could argue those were the biggest minutes of the game. Mm-hmm. I know that we did a lot of really good things in the second half. Whatever you want to say, the points in the paint in the second half, they only scored 6 baskets in the second half. But I also think that stretch that you're talking about, where our heavy minute guys that we're dependent on, particularly offensively, I thought that group was really good at winning time of possession. I don't think we shot an unpredictable shot. And I thought we got 2 turkeys during that stretch. And up until then, we'd only had 1 turkey. And a lot of it was because of the turnovers and the unpredictable shots. But that stretch to go in at halftime tied was that was the first thing that I praised those guys for, because I thought those guys played more consecutive minutes together as a group than they had in a long time in really big possessions, and I thought they were tremendous.
You talked a lot. I know you talk after the games on these Saturdays, so I don't want to make it too repetitive on these Mondays, but we'd be crazy to let you out of here without talking about Hayden Hefner and the game he had and what he means to the whole operation over there.
Yeah, I just like I said on Saturday, you can say whatever you want to say upon arrival of each of the kids on our team, each of the kids on their team, but it's pretty justifiable to say that H was the least touted. He's a good player. Mm-hmm. He was in our first recruiting class, and we recruited the heck out of him. I think I was too intense in my recruiting of him, to be honest. I think initially I was probably a little too strong and may have even scared H, because I just thought he was built on the right things. He loves Texas A&M. His family cares about Texas A&M. And I also think that they believe in a lot of the same things that we want our program to be about off the floor. I thought he was great in our first recruiting class for him to come back to use his COVID year when he doesn't have to use his COVID year. Mm-hmm. I just think how much energy and emotion he gives to our program, whether he's on the court, whether he's on the bench, whether it's in the locker room, whether it's been in the film room. If they were to do a documentary of his growth competitively, his growth personally, in regards to what he was upon arrival and what he is today, I don't think you can quantify that. And that's why I got a little emotional, because I cheer for the underdog. I cheer for the guys that have the least likes and the least retweets and all of that stuff. And I just think he's built on the right stuff, and I think he has big guts. And in my opinion, where I'm from, the ultimate currency is respect. It's not money. It's not followers. It's not wins. It's not money. The ultimate respect in the little country town where I'm from is respect. And I have the utmost respect for H. Yeah. And as does everyone in our program. And I tell him that often, and I told him that at the end of the game. Hey, man, look at all them guys out there. There's some real players out there, and you're one of them. But, man, I want you to know I don't love you any more than I love anybody else, but I want you to know I hold you in the highest regard, and have great respect for what you're about. And so does everybody else. That's just, I know everybody interviews me, but everybody feels the same way I do.
Well, it's great stuff, sir. Thank you very much for your time. We'll be watching on Wednesday against Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Buzz. Stay warm up there.
Buzz Williams there on the Boss Firearms Hotline.
It'll be a little cold in Oklahoma on Wednesday.
How cold is it supposed to be there?
I don't know, but it's going to be really cold. It's really cold here, and you go north, and it's going to be really cold.
I like your response.
It's going to be really cold in Dallas.
I thought you were a little.
And you go north. No, but I think that little swath, it's even colder. It's usually colder, in Oklahoma than Texas.
Usually,
but in this particular time, I think it's really, really going to. The Midwest is
currently in Oklahoma, it's 19 degrees.
Okay.
On Wednesday, the high will be 34, the low will be 24.
Okay. Cold.
A moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet where your heaters work. That I can guarantee you. When you buy a vehicle from Caldwell Country Chevrolet, the heaters are going to work, and especially at this time. They're on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Great deals, great customer service. We're actually in the middle of it right now. My wife's Tahoe needs a little bit of work, so we dropped it off there on Friday of last week, and hopefully we'll pick it up early this week. But it's just very seamless and easy transition for it, and they take wonderful care of everybody as you take your car to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You also can get a great deal on your next vehicle. They have got great trade-in values, great customer service, and of course, great pricing when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. We're talking about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Why is the stock market trending on Twitter? If you can look into that for me, that'd be it. Maybe it's just no reason at all. It just caught my attention. It is TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. I want to talk about Southwood Valley Animal Hospital. Great place to go when you have any kind of needs. Like if you've got, yeast infection in your dog's ears. You've got, you want to get your heartworm medication. You got puppies you need to check out. Let Dr. Justin and Dr. Lauren take care of you. They're fantastic. They took over ownership in 2022. They've been doing some great things there. He is the 13th Aggie in his family, 17 in the entire family. So there are a bunch of Aggies there at Southwood Valley Animal Hospital. They want to take care of students in the community. So if you're a student, that's the place you need to go to. It's right down the road here from TexAgs, right across from Consol. And in fact, if you're a TexAgs subscriber, they're also going to give you the TexAgs 12 discount the first time you visit there. Just tell them that. They'll take care of you. The phone number, 979-693-9898. That is 979-693-9898, or go to southwoodvalleyvet.com. Callie, is there anything going on?
I think it's one of those things that people are using, like that phrase, to get other information.
Oh, so it's fake.
Yeah. And it's not even important. It's just like a person. I don't know. But every tweet that has that attached to it is not relevant.
Billy, we didn't get to do pleasantries earlier. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Nuño. You like my hat?
I've seen that one before.
I love this one.
I feel like you need to have some hair popping out of the middle because it's a little too low.
Out of the middle?
Yeah. There we go. Now you look. Yeah. Now you look normal.
Did you watch the game?
The Lions game last night? No, I did not.
Did you watch the Texans?
I did not.
Do you think your Texans, our Texans, will win a playoff game?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
I think they will.
I mean, obviously, I hope they do. They just have been very inconsistent the last month of the season. Last 6 weeks of the season, maybe all season long. I mean, they've taken care of games in the South, obviously, but they've had some issues.
Yeah, they're. I don't know what's going on with Stroud. I mean, they've got some injuries in the receiver position in particular. Mm-hmm. Obviously, not looking like you thought it would look like. But yeah, I'd say flip a coin on Saturday if they advance or not. But hey, look, they got a playoff streak.
Yeah, they got a chance.
They won a playoff game. No, they did not win one last year, right?
No, they won their first game.
They lost their second to the Ravens. That's right. That's right. They lost to the Ravens on Bronny's wedding day.
That is right.
Because I was very distracted watching them play that game. So, anywho, NFL real quick. Lost in the shuffle of all the big stories is Von Miller met his bonus.
Also
got his bonus. What do you have? A sack and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Vaughn has had a nice little bounce back from last year when everyone said people were speculating he was done, and that was it, and never get it back. So, I mean, still a real chance. And this is something I don't think we've talked much about this year. Still a real chance for Von Miller to win a third Super Bowl ring. Right?
Yeah.
Rams, Broncos. And if he were to even so much as make a play or two in a Super Bowl for Buffalo and contribute to 3 wins like that would be just the icing on the cake, cherry on top of a Hall of Fame career. And then obviously the Mike Evans thing yesterday was probably one of the stories in the NFL because so many of those games didn't have any real playoff implication. What do you go here? Lions, Vikings, maybe the Broncos getting their spot. Mike Evans, that was probably a top 5 moment in the NFL yesterday. And just really cool for me to see the way his team celebrated that moment. And they were in the head coach's ear, get him out there, let him make that play. And they execute. By the way, it's a great play. Why they couldn't have done that throughout the game. He was wide open. Yeah. The whole stadium knew he's getting the ball. Probably the best play call of the weekend in the NFL to get your guy that open for those yards. And just words can't even express the career he's had. And he's such I wrote it and I mean it, like on and off the field in this community, in the Tampa community, in Galveston. This guy quietly does so damn much for young people. He does so much. And he hasn't changed one bit from the day I met him before he ever played at A&M. Hadn't changed a bit, and he never will. And that's what's cool. No matter how many guy just made what $3 million yesterday.
Yeah,
he will not change a bit in any capacity, and hasn't changed the way he plays either from day one at A&M. He is the same player, same guy. You're talking about understand what we're saying here. You're talking about two first ballot Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Texas A&M football. First ballot, lay down. Like, day they're eligible, they go in. And you've got Leckler hanging out there. You got Richmond Webb hanging out there. I think Leckler's ultimately going to be a lock. And I think Myles Garrett's ultimately going to be a lock. And what he continues to do down there on such a bad Cleveland team. So you probably have 3 active guys in the NFL that are going to wear gold jackets, which is insane if you think about the history of A&M football. And you probably think about most programs right now. I'd love to see how many guys in the NFL are considered like lay down Hall of Fame.
First day.
And see how many programs have more than 3 or even 3.
And I asked the impossible question.
LSU, obviously, probably right now is feeling that way. But I ask you
why Rollo Insurance. No, I ask you the impossible question, Billy. Like, there isn't a 1A, 1B. I understand that, but like both those guys, Vaughn and Mike Evans, when we're talking about the greatest players of all time in Texas A&M history, I don't know if there's somebody above them, but they're in the conversation. Those are like, when we're talking about all-time football NFL players, Mike and Vaughn are in that upper echelon. They're already upper echelon in the Hall of Fame.
I think they're 1, 2. I mean, Richmond Webb, Lester Hayes, Shane Leckler. He's probably the best ever at his position.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you got to look and say there's just the wide receiver and pass rusher positions are so old, insanely competitive, obviously. But I mean, I think they're 1, 2, and I think we could do a whole show trying to figure out who's 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when it's all said and done, Mike will be 1. He's a few years behind Vaughn. Vaughn's got the 2 Super Bowls. Mike's got 1. So, I mean, I think when it's all said and done, Mike will end up being 1. And Vaughn 2, and TBD on Miles. I think Miles will, in my opinion, have to go to another team to pass Vaughn. Hell, unless Miles ends up being like the all-time NFL sack leader and gets up there with like Bruce Smith and Reggie White. But I think he's got to win. Like, when you're going to measure up him and Vaughn at the end of this thing, Miles will have to have at least a Super Bowl to go against Vaughn's 2, if not 3.
Right.
So, and look, and let's not mistake those first 2. He was the MVP, most valuable player of a Super Bowl to win it. And then the second one, he had a massive impact for the Rams in that game.
Right, we'll hit a break here. Right now, we're talking about the Association of Former Students. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then you need to check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during marquee events held throughout the year. We're talking about awesome days like Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, The Gathering. They all welcome tens of thousands of guests, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities to get your brand in front of those attendees. They offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. These options include title sponsorship naming, on-site presence and activation, recognition in social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with other Aggies, choose a partner that's been with the organization supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, hour number 3 of the program. Bill, I want to talk a little portal here for a moment. I know we got a big addition to talk about.
All right, well, can we do a little finish NFL?
Yeah, we can do it. Billy.
We got time, and we can always go a little extra. My thing is, when we come over here, let's go a little extra. If you have time. Do you have 15 minutes?
I have
10 minutes.
I have 12 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
In fact, if you want to keep me longer, I'll miss the managers' meeting.
Well, you're like, please keep me longer. AG and Dan up there and we talked earlier with Buzz about Aaron Glenn, like probably a head coach this year. Probably should have been last year.
Right?
Yep, two of his teams. He's ready. Dan would have told you a couple of years ago he's ready. And he did
was
tell
up for
me
New
that.
Orleans 2 years ago, wasn't he, or 3 years ago?
Yeah, it was when they hired DA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up for a couple jobs last year as well, but he's ready to be a head coach, and he's ready to win a Super Bowl. That game the other night, when you consider last night what the Vikings have been lately in this whole season, but really lately offensively, with Jefferson and Hawkinson and Darnold and the rest of that receiving core. Who else they got? Addison. They've got. I think Jones is still a really good running back in that league. Like that is a elite offense in 2024, and to hold them, to keep them out of the end zone, and do it with the injuries, and then they had another injury. When they lose, what's his name? The rookie corner out of Alabama. They said another loss. Like what the damage is in their secondary, and have to face Jefferson, Hawkinson, Addison, and that those skill guys. It's crazy that they were able to hold them out of the end zone. And what you saw last night is a team that just doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Care about. They don't make any excuses. And I had texted Dan after that Bills game when they lost 4 starters for the year. Now, hopefully, you may end up getting Montgomery back for the playoffs, which would be amazing because Gibbs is carrying quite a load right now. He was incredible last night. But to lose 4 starters in a single NFL game during the stretch run is unheard of. It's incredible. And then on top of that, what they've already lost defensively. And Dan's just, even behind, I'm saying, I wouldn't say what we sit there and say, but it just fits everything. And just like, part of it will be,
got to do it.
All the more reason for us to win, whatever it was he said. But it was just so positive and confident and next man up.
Right.
That's our culture. That's what we do. And it's one thing to say it, but you can tell they believe it. And they all believe it. And they celebrate like the guy last night that had to go in there and he locked down Justin Jefferson, which I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do. I mean, we've been watching him since LSU, and almost shut him out, like 3 catches for minimal, bunch of red zone passes defended. So that's their culture there. And I'm telling you, if you watch that game last night, I say it just because been up there. That atmosphere is such a college atmosphere. It's so loud. That roof sits low. It feels like you're in you're not in a normal, not like Reliant or Jerry World or one of these big domes. It is so loud, so intense. There's so much passion and energy in there. For them to have won last night and clinched the home field, I thought that no matter how much faith and belief you have in that team right now, I felt like that was the necessary piece for them to get to New Orleans. And so that was a huge game last night. We talk about this, and you might have, 2 Aggies coaching in the Super Bowl. You might have 2 Aggies coaching in the Super Bowl against, with Von Miller out there. So who knows? I would love to see the Lions versus the Chiefs because I felt like that's what we should have seen last year.
Yeah,
and I think the Lions could have taken them out last year. So we'll see. Long way to go, especially in that NFC. But you did not want to have to go, in some form or fashion to L.A. and face Stafford again on the road in the playoffs.
Right.
You got him last year. You did not want to have to go to like Philly or Minnesota. Like that's just a daunting path.
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll close up on the other side. We'll maybe even go long here on TexAgs Live. Let's talk about Heritage Films. YourHeritageFilm.com is the website. They make documentary films about families, about family businesses, family ranches. They want to tell your story. If you have considered Heritage Films or you just haven't had the right time, maybe you should consider doing it right now. Tomorrow's not promised. Chance is great at telling people's stories, the family story, just capturing the essence of your family business, your family ranch, whatever it may be, your family business. He's going to tell that story in a 2-hour documentary form that's going to be passed on for generation after generation. You're going to love it after you watch it. And you're going to be like, wow, that is, they really did our family justice. We did it with ours, and I highly recommend it. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com. Call them up, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. We're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, David and Billy. Billy, let's get into the portal. I know they're still trying to keep Noah, and obviously they're working hard there. But they did bring in a cornerback over the weekend who's had a couple stops, Indiana and Washington, for Jordan Shaw, and that was an area of concern, especially after the USC game. And it wasn't just that game, but that was kind of like the exclamation point, like we've got to get better in the secondary. And they brought in a guy that's who's played very well.
Yeah, no, look, I mentioned, I think it was Friday I mentioned him. You'd have thought I'd let out where, like, I don't know, what's a big secret? Jimmy Hoffa was buried, or, where the King Tut's tomb. I don't know what I let out, but Bronny's face when I mentioned that the Washington DB, because he's a guy that A&M's been, they wanted to get him, and they got the opportunity to get him, and they did. He's a guy that they were pretty excited about going in the portal, and made that happen in very short order. I've been saying I wanted to see them add another versatile DB, and I think that's what he is. So I think again, depth. He's had some good games against really good teams for UW, Michigan, USC, Penn State. So he's a guy that will walk in and be ready to play, ready to contribute, and ready to compete for meaningful reps on the field. And because nothing is assured in this secondary, and I think he can play. He can play corner. He can play nickel.
Right.
And I think nickel. You've got Tyreek Chappelle, who can excel, who was excelling at nickel. I think that was we talked so much about the loss of Le'Veon Moss and losing Basantis for about a month there. I think the loss people don't talk about nearly enough is Tyreek Chappelle and what he could have brought. I mean, Tyreek's pretty incredible what he was doing in no amount of time at nickel and what they thought he could be doing down the stretch of the season in conference play. He'll be back. He'll be ready to go. He'll be 100%. But I think now you've got some flexibility and depth there, and it also gives you flexibility and depth at corner, where you've got Will Lee, you've got, you added Julian Humphrey. Who else? You've got Des Ricks, who come back for year 2, and I think Rick should make a massive jump.
Yeah.
From what we saw in that UCLA game, that'll be interesting to say, okay, take this game where they were picking on him and they were going at him, and take that game and press it forward to a guy of his talent. You got Javon Thomas there, the cornerback position, and then you add in Ricks and you add in Shaw. Now all of a sudden, I'm feeling, and the true freshman, by the way, that they're really excited about, that whole group, that position in one calendar year for Mike Elko, and you look a year ago, December 1, what that position looked like, and you look at it today, it's something special. Like, what I mean by special is the massive strides they've taken in 1 year. That's like real stuff. That's how you get. So you take that position, I think, at corner, maybe as much as any position on the team. Probably receiver if you get Noah back. And that's just real quick update there. Did not commit on the Georgia visit. Penn State throwing a bag at him. I don't think, as I said last week, I don't think that matters in Noah's recruitment. It matters to a degree with every prospect ever, because it's just what you're hearing about starts to get crazy.
Right.
It's stuff that you and I, or players from even 5 years ago, can't comprehend, but that's not the driving force for him. It's playing and catches and
get to the next
getting
level.
Prepared to get to the next level. Eyes on the right stuff there, but didn't commit to Georgia, didn't commit to Penn State. Aggies are still very much in that thing. It's a very important, what is now a portal recruitment. He is in the portal. He is not on the Texas A&M team. He is not an Aggie right now, and they're trying to keep him an Aggie and say, be an Aggie for life, and that's, I'm sure that's a small part of the pitch, but the bigger part is that, and that is a meaningful part of the pitch. And I think that's meaningful for Noah, so I do think that's a positive in A&M's favor in trying to keep him. But if they do, and you look at that receiver room, I think receiver and corner, I would tell you, have come the furthest since they've gotten here.
Yep.
Now, on the field, the position that's come the furthest is O-line, I think, under Brian Cushing. Or I say Adam Cushing. Why does he? Oh, Brian Cushing. I'm
My
like,
buddy.
why do I always say
My
Brian
good
Cushing?
friend, Jocko Willett.
Adam Cushing, yeah, Brian Cushing.
I heard you going after Jocko.
Oh.
Gotta be careful with that,
I didn't know
buddy.
if
My friend knows him, so I know him.
I didn't know if you got wind of that.
I heard everything. I heard the jokes. Oh, the diet. Oh, who doesn't? I eat carbs.
Do you though?
Yeah, I do.
Refined carbs.
No, I eat carbs. I'm like at 3,000 calories a day, but
what are they called? Complex carbs.
Complex carbohydrates. Yeah. Complex situation with the transfer portal.
It is. It always is. But I love what they're doing. In the addition of Sean, I'm telling you, this is a guy that the Aggies, like, you just look at how quickly they went on. There's a lot of DBs in the portal. And I think they're probably done there, but it wouldn't be a total shock if they added one more, but I think they're probably done. You're probably looking at if the right couple guy or two pop up on the defensive line, and that's probably
potentially another wide receiver.
Well, yeah, if you don't keep Noah, then the question is,
are they done at wide receiver if they keep Noah?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I would say definitely so.
Okay.
But if you don't, do you go out and look for somebody? And again, there are teams playing. They're going to have guys go in. I don't know who. I'm not being cryptic, but you got Ohio State still playing. You got Texas still playing. You got Notre Dame. You got Penn State. But you've also got these teams that just ended a few days ago that had 5 days to go in. Plus, there's that 48-hour window before it shows up in the portal. So it's really a week. So you're coming up almost on that time when you're looking at what, like Arizona State, Boise, Georgia, which could be an interesting one, and then who's the fourth team that was eliminated this weekend?
Arizona State,
Notre Dame. Who Notre Dame beat?
Georgia. They beat Georgia.
No, not Notre Dame. Penn State beat Boise. Notre Dame beat Georgia. Texas beat ASU, and
Ohio
Oregon,
State beat Oregon. Yeah.
So a lot of talent there at Oregon and Georgia. First of all, and then ASU's a really interesting one because they have all this momentum in the world. You wouldn't think guys would be looking to go out, but they're also probably looking at opportunities to really up their stock. So interesting couple of days on the front of those teams, and then again, like after this weekend, you'll have two more teams with a whole hell of a lot of talent being eliminated. So it's still ongoing. I think the Aggies are fine in the secondary. I think they're fine at receiver if they've got Noah in the fold. If they don't, I could see them going out and giving one more because you will really be lacking that size on the outside if you don't have Noah as part of that. Yep. And that's part of why he's so important to it.
Well, I mean, I feel like, before we close, I don't know if optimism's the right word, but I feel like the vibe is they're in a better place with Noah than they thought they were a week ago. So that's positive.
I would say that. But I think that went from he was likely not coming back to
maybe
possibly.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think you're sitting there going, "Hey, let's count on him returning." But I do think there's a real chance that happens.
Billy, thank you, sir.
I do.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Even trying to cut us off on time, huh?
No, we're past. The show ended a while ago.
Okay.
We went overtime. This got awkward.
Looks like it's 10:59 to me.
Yeah, but the show ends at 10:56.
Oh.
And it starts at 10 this hour.
I'd like to go for about 17 more seconds just to say we went till the normal time that a show would end. To me, a radio show would end at...
No show ends at the top of the hour. Shows start at the top of the hour.
It used to.
No.
That's a lie.
I mean...
This show for years...
Oh, this show
started at 10:06.
Yeah, but there's
almost every show on that station started at 10:06.
Yeah, but they changed the clock 2.5 years ago. Your boss changed the clock.
My boss. Oh, man. All right.
Thank you for watching. It's TexAgs Live.